Hello, welcome. This is your Chef Christine coming at you once again. I hope you are living a blessed life, and I thank you for joining me. I will remind everyone that I am a retired chef, and I have been dealing with the public all of my working life. Restaurant management, you're always dealing with people. In the restaurant business, period, you're always dealing with people, whether you be in management or just a regular laborer. Now, I've experienced the race thing by working in the public life with customers and things, and you know, um, them not wanting black people to wait on them or take their orders, making sure you don't touch their skin, and saying all kinds of things to black workers. I've personally experienced that through my lifetime. Working for bosses that were prejudiced, I've experienced that. It's sad, but it's true. And I had to deal with it because I had a family to support. I was a single mother of four, and I had children to provide for. So that was a pill that I had to swallow. Not saying is right, which I know is not. Because there's not anything in this world that a black person hasn't had their hands put to, whether it's in production or delivery or whatever. A black hand has touched it. Okay, so getting to the topic at hand, I guess I will call this critical race theory, or a psychologically damaged nation. And I must remind you also that I don't have no PhD or graduate or whatever in anything. Just a little old black lady saying what I'm saying. Doing a little studying. Now that I have free time, doing a little studying, and because a lot of thoughts ran through my mind throughout the years, always really, about certain things in life in general. But this critical race theory thing is just really getting out of hand. And I also write down my notes and things because I am a little older now, and things don't always stick to me like they used to. So I make my notes and I look through them as I go along. Okay. Got to find the part where I want to really start here. It seemed like some folks and political figures are so upset about the critical race theory. Governor Greg Abbott of Texas signed a bill that restricts teaching about race in public schools. Oklahoma, Tennessee, Idaho, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Arizona have introduced similar legislation. There was a case where members of the Mississippi Senate walked out before a vote on a bill described as a prohibition on critical race theory. Why so much resistance to the concept, to the concept, to the concept that seeks to understand and address inequality and racism in America. Okay? It's nonviolent. There's nothing violent about it. You know? It's seeking to understand. So what is the big problem with it? I'm just not understanding that. And I don't see why any of you understand it either. And it's so bad that, even in our own churches, ministers are afraid to teach and preach about who we are, black people I'm talking about, who we are according to the scriptures. They won't even touch on that. Some of them won't even touch on it. Now, if we're familiar with the scripture in the Bible where God told Moses to put his hand in his bosom. When Moses pulled out, he put his hand in his bosom, and when he pulled it out, it was white as snow. Okay? He did this process again. Put his hand in his bosom. And the Bible said that his hand had turned again as his other flesh. Now, I asked my pastor, if his hand turned back to his other flesh after it had turned white, I asked him, well, what color would it be? He didn't want to answer that. He chuckled a little about it, but he never would answer it. Why? Why? Instead, they are more prone to talk about the scriptures under the disguise of this white Jesus. And yes, many homes, black homes, have this white Jesus portrayed. And then I look on Facebook sometimes and I see these white-faced Jesuses, and they say, would you invite him in? Hell no. I don't know him. Look like an average old white man to me. No, I would not let him in. Because that's not Jesus. That's your projected image of who Jesus is. In every country, the one they worship resembles who they are. It always resembles who they are. So I'm not surprised coming out of Rome that this person would be white. It's only logical. But me being black, and by the way, it's been shown many times over that Jesus was one of color. Jesus was one of color. And they have proven that. I've seen that long time ago. I can't remember where I saw it at, but I've seen it. So, but to everybody, to each his own. If that's who you want to call Jesus, then go right ahead. Now, even the Reverend Jeremiah Wright came under scrutiny because of his teaching in church. They didn't care anything about this man until Barack Obama. And then, they came after this great teacher, all because of Barack Obama. They wanted to find something wrong with Barack Obama. So they kept on after this until Obama just finally gave in and denounced this great preacher. Now that's sad. That is sad. And for that, Barack Obama, in my book, was just a token president. And I know some folks aren't going to agree with that, but to me, he was just a token. He was a token to continue to hide the racism of this country. Wanted to pretend like, oh, we done elected a black president. Wow. That didn't mean a damn thing. He could only do so much because the white man still controlled the reins. Black people everywhere were fooled by this disguise of appointing a black man president. It's time that these blinders come off. He did nothing for reparations to all the descendants of slavery in the United States. And I don't care what excuse he gives. There's no excuse in the world good enough for him not pushing the issue as president of these United States. He should have done more. He should have done more. Excuses don't cut. He was in one of the highest offices in the United States, and he couldn't do a damn thing. Donald Trump had no problem. He got crazy people to go storm the Capitol. He ain't had no problem with it. So this shows me the weakness and powerlessness of even a black president. This racism thing, Trump proved how far we have come as a racist nation. And that's nowhere at all. It's still the same under a different disguise. And it starts with our government officials. All of them. Biden won because black folks hated Trump for using the hatred white folks have for blacks to secure his election and possible re-election. Trump was and is smart, and he wants to win again at any cost. He could care less about whether you're white or whether you're black. He don't give a damn. He just wants to win. He didn't do such a bad job as a president. He really didn't. He just played into the racism too much. He overplayed his hand in that. And that made black people not trust him, not have any faith in him, not have any trust in him, for he seemed to be against them. And that cost him. That really cost him. Because those black people got out there and made sure they got them votes in. They made sure they got them. Because he overplayed his hand. There's only so much hatred and ignorance due to hatred that anyone can stomach. There is too much evil attached to it. Too much. Now, Trump is vowing to pardon the rioters now, which proves my point. He preys on the ignorance of people for a weed. He knows people are ignorant. He knows it. He knows it. And he won't stop until these mentally damaged people get some serious help. He needs some help. These United States foundation was laid with the notion that slavery was okay. and inequality. It is, was, and is the land of the free white folks and the home of those not brave enough to own up to its sins and try to make it right. And that breaks my heart. That's sad, very sad. Once again, black folks didn't come here willingly to be nobody's slave. They didn't ask to be stripped of their own identity. They didn't ask to be stripped from their family. The United States governing body took everything away from them, stripped them of everything to provide a better life for its white. Just to hear you say, if you don't like it, then leave. Where in the hell are we supposed to go? We've been stripped of everything. Everything's been taken away from us. We even believing in your white Jesus. We ain't got nothing. Where can we go? Even our own people call us Americans. They don't recognize us as a part of them. They don't. They really don't. So y'all need to really take in consideration of us and try to understand things a little bit better. You really do. And Trump, this is what I'm saying, overplaying your hand. He called a hate group good people. What's good about hatred and evilness? What's good about it? Now, the critical race theory, which is a nonviolent concept, is called Marxist ideology, threatening the American way of life. Now, to be called Marxist, I had to look it up because I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. Because, like I said, I have no degrees in anything. I'm just an old black lady saying what I'm saying. Trying to do research, checking into things. So, all right. Now, so I had to check into that. So this term first publicly formulated in 1848 in an 1848 pamphlet by Karl Marx. Okay. Now, I'm not getting into all of what that consists of. You can look it up yourself, Karl Marx, just like I did. And look him up and find out what his concept was. Although he was not completely correct about his views, there was some truth to what he said. And this was in 1848. Long time ago. Okay, the conflict between classes that he talked about is true. But the demise of capitalism, I'm not so sure about. Okay, his view on how class conflict would play out in a capitalist system has partly came true. Okay, the revolution in which the working class rebellion against companies has taken place, cutting into production of many businesses, and employees are making demands for better pay and benefits. Now, it didn't come across the way he thought it would, but COVID brought this into fruition. It had a great impact on our society. So even though it didn't happen the way he said it, there was a lot of truth in what he said. And this was in 1848. Okay. So being called Marxist is not so negative after all, because what he said, partly of what he said was true. When they're, so that's why I feel like sometimes you need to listen to your elders, the ones that's come before you, the ones that has lived a little and experienced a little more in life than you have if you're a younger person. Not everything that the older generations say is wrong. Not everything they say is wrong. So sometimes you need to pay more attention to your elders. Now I gotta say, there's some elders out there ain't got no good sense at all. Today's elders, I don't know where their minds are. There are very few elders today that really have any moralistic values. Uh, they just have put aside what they know is right. And it's a sad situation. So, how could the critical race theory threaten the American way of life? What is the definition to the American way of life when we can't even live a life of peace with one another? We can't live a life of peace with one another. We can't live a life of equality with one another. We can't even live a life without racism. So what does that say about the American way of life? What does that say about it? Now, my goodness. Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida is supporting a bill where private-owned businesses and schools would be prohibited. He's supporting this, where private businesses and schools would be prohibited from making white people feel discomfort or guilt when speaking about the racist past of our country and discrimination. A part of this bill states an individual, by virtue of his or her race or sex, does not bear responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex. An individual should not be made to feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of his or her race. Now, this bill says a lot. As to what it says, I will hopefully open up some minds to the truth. The truth includes every American citizen of these United States. So right now, this is just part one of the critical race theory, or a psychologically damaged nation. So tune in to part two of this discussion, and we will find out a little more and hopefully get a better understanding. I love you. I don't hate anyone. This is just an old lady saying what she's saying and seeking answers with a heart full of hope that one day we'll put aside all this foolery and really become a great nation. Really become a great nation. It's said, I've heard it said, when you know better, you do better. Well, America, it's time for us to do better. Educate yourself. Educate yourself. Find out where you come from, really. Find out about yourself. And then you'll see you're no better than nobody else. Find out about your European nation. Find out about yourself. Educate yourself. I'm trying to educate myself. So find out about yourself. Don't just try to find all the positive things about you. Find out your negativities too. Then you'll be able to understand other people. We live in a country that was built on sinking sand. A house divided will not stand, says the scripture. And we're too divided. So tune in to part 2. I hope to see you soon. Thank you for listening.